Hello, hello, Luminary. All right, so we are in Cancer season, and in Cancer season, it's all about the moon. So, in this replay episode, I'm going to share with you some new information and the new ways that I talk about the moon in your business and your brand. And then we are going to sample an episode all the way from last year. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Savvy Luminary podcast, Astrology for Entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Leslie Tagorda, creator of the Astrobrand Method, business astrologer, brand designer, author, and Aquarius boss woman. I help visionary spiritual entrepreneurs and impact makers like you illuminate and amplify your unique star powers so you can be the luminary you were born to be. The moon is like one of my absolute favorite topics to speak about in astrology, to think about, to read about, to learn about, all of those things. And I'm sure that that's the same thing for you. The moon is one of our karmic energies, meaning it's part of our soul's history that we come into this life, this being, this incarnation with all of the information that connects us to our ancestry, our past lives, our parents from our moon sign. Of course, our moon represents, in traditional astrology, the divine mother, just the divine femininity. And when we're looking at the kind of psychological evolution of our own personal development, the moon sign is that umbilical connection to our mother. And so when we think about this kind of primal need, just not only our soul's need, but our inner child need, even though the inner child is kind of represented by the sun, I digress. The moon sign in our business and our brand represents the pure needs, like non-negotiable needs of what we desire in life in our business. And because these are our needs, the moon represents our needs in our business. This shows us our whys because these needs are undercurrents that are really just driving us oftentimes from this very like unconscious level, this subconscious level of all of our whys that were really started to be formed in our earliest histories that we are still living out today. As I was listening to the replay of our episode 23, all the way from last June of 2020, this episode 5 ways to use your moon sign in your brand and your business, I was really surprised. Well, not really exactly surprised, but we are evolving. And I talk about the moon so much. I could spend hours and hours with a client just talking about the moon. It represents so many things, so many layers in our being. And so I wanted to share some of the ways that I've evolved talking about the moon before we dive into the replay of 5 ways to use your moon sign in your brand. After we do the little replay of that short segment in that episode 23, then I'll be sharing some of the questions that the members of my free Facebook group, The Savvy Luminary, as well as on my Instagram account, I posed this question earlier about what questions do you have about your moon sign in your business? And there are some great questions that I will answer after the replay of the 5 ways to use your moon sign in your business and brand. If you have my book, Star Powered Brand, and you can get this at any online bookseller, retailer, I have that all up on my website if you want to take a look at thesavvyluminary.com. But in the Star Powered Brand, I talk about your sun sign, your moon sign, and your rising sign, as we already know that your sun, moon, and your rising are your big 3, but how to work with each of those in your business, because each of those archetypes represents a different foundational energy that we need to bring through. So our sun sign, which we'll be talking about in Leo season, is the what we do. The what we do that is so unique. It's our superpowers. It's our zone of genius, however you talk about it. When we look at our sun sign in our business and our brand, we can differentiate how we are so different than any other person in our own industry. And then our rising sign, which we talked about back in April for Aries season, is about how we contribute, how we lead, how we take initiative, and kind of that kind of personality that others are are already experiencing us as? Well, our moon sign is much deeper. Our moon sign is the why. As I mentioned earlier, our moon sign is that undercurrent that drives us to make decisions. And if we're not mindful, these decisions are being made unconsciously. If we're making decisions based on fear and lack, then we're just reacting. And while, yes, you might be growing, you're not growing from a soul level. And I trust that people who are listening to this podcast have this connection with their business in terms that as a spiritual entrepreneur, even if your business isn't very spiritual in what you are doing, that you can see that your business is an extension of your soul and helping you along your soul's path. So, coming back to our moon. In traditional astrology, the moon represents so many things. Again, it represents our connection to our past. It represents the connection to our mother. It represents the connection of like how we experience our mother, whether or not our mother was a good mother, a bad mother, or anywhere in between. We came into this life with this predisposition of how our mother was going to be and somehow kind of manifested that, if you believe in those kinds of things, which of course I do. And so our moon sign gives us this kind of primal energy of why we do things and what we need in order to not just sustain ourselves, but to survive. And so now that most of us are all grown ups and we are running our own businesses and we're trying to move out of that survival mode into that thriving mode, we can then look to our moon sign and the soft powers, the emotional and intuitive powers of our moon sign to understand what success feels like to us, because it's that's that understanding of what we need on an emotional security level that allows us to go after the things that we need and we want, instead of just going after the things that we think other people that we should want because that's what society told us that we should want, or going after just money for money's sake because society or the system told us that's what it means to be successful. So your moon sign by zodiac can tell you that energy of really like what you need to feel secure. And when you finally understand what you need in order to feel secure, then things start to shift. So I've given this example before, but especially I've noticed this for those of us who have Gemini moons or fire moons. I know Gemini is not a fire moon, but I noticed that the people who have Gemini moons, when all of a sudden we kind of look at it under a lens of like, oh, what you need to feel successful is being seen and understood, there is this light that starts to be illuminated in them going, oh my gosh, that's exactly it. When I was a little child, my mother never listened to me, or my dad dismissed my intelligence and just wanted me to be pretty. Those would be like kind of stories of the Gemini moon. And for those of you with fiery Aries moons, it wasn't always safe for little girls to be wild and creative and to be competitive and want to put themselves first. But if you have one of those Aries moons, imagine having that permission to know that success for you means being the best, being the first, being competitive. Like, how freeing is that to understand your primal needs based on your moon sign? So I'd like to call our moon sign powers our soft powers. And I think that we're all really learning how important soft powers, that ability to connect and empathize and show compassion, to show kindness, to show inclusiveness and belonging. All of those energies are so important in business. And we're finally able to give those soft powers the leverage they so well deserve in our businesses, in our brands. Now, in my book, again, The Star Powered Brand, I say to illuminate your brand's soft powers. Because, the moon in the solar system, it doesn't have its own energy source like the sun. The sun is just radiating energy. It is its own engine. It is radiating and through fusion, creating all this energy. Hence, that's why it's our soul, our superpowers. But the moon is receptive. And when we see the full moon in the bright night once a month, it is reflecting back the sun's radiance. And depending on where the moon cycle is, on day to day over 29 days cycle, and we can see the moon's light increasing and waxing and decreasing and waning. And it's this play with light that we get to play with also in our businesses. So the moon sign, again, it represents our feelings, our emotions, and our intuition. And we are finally harnessing our intuition and finding it safe to trust in ourselves with our own inner knowing and inner power. And that's all because of our moon sign, our feelings and our intuitions, our emotions and our feelings, because this again drives the why. How does success feel like? How do our emotions, once we get aware of them, how do they enable us to make decisions instead of getting stuck? And how those feelings then, how we want to cultivate our feelings of joy and expansiveness and notice the triggers that make us feel the opposite ways so that we can notice them more quickly and get over them. And then we have our desires. And this is another part of the why, this kind of recognition. How do we want to be recognized? Why do we want to be recognized? And these desires, when we're honest with ourselves, instead of just using the desires that are, maybe are put on us by our family or put on us by society or the media, when we get to the heart of what we want by understanding our moon sign, then we get secure within ourselves because we can go after authentically what we want, what we desire. And it creates a sense of emotional security. Part of July's theme is rooting to rise, that idea in yoga that if you're going to be doing a tall pose, you're rooting your feet deep down so that you can rise your spine up even higher. And that sense of emotional security when you're rooted in your own heart. And when you are understanding this recognition and this desire, this allows you to be acknowledged. I know that I've worked with a lot of clients who have resisted being seen and resisted showing up, and they wonder why they can't show up more consistently, or they wonder why they like to work behind the scenes. And when we start to look at the moon sign, this gives us so much information, allowing us to be seen, to be recognized in our own way. And then, of course, the moon, because it is one of our soul history, our karmic energies, it shows us those shadows, those fears, and those stories that may hold us back or drive us in those unconscious ways. And so when we get really curious with what those stories and those shadows are, it allows us to understand and recognize our challenges in a new light. So we're no longer judging them. Instead, we're getting really curious with them about, like, oh, what is this life lesson that I'm supposed to learn? Because a lot of times our astrological signatures, we have these lessons that are going to keep circling back into our lives, and that as we evolve, as we progress in life, that we see them from different perspectives. And then these shadows can also give us insight as to these fears. So we can start to examine these fears and see if these fears are based in truth or are just based on opinion about what might happen to us versus what actually happened to us. And so when we start to look at these fears from a new level, they all of a sudden don't become so scary because we're adding light to them. We're learning how to become friends with these fears instead of avoiding them. When we avoid our fears, that just gives them power. And then, of course, all of those old stories. And oftentimes these old stories, they will always come from our parents or our family or our lineage, especially when it comes to money stories. And if you're running a business, you are here to make money. So if you haven't really figured out your own money stories, which you can look at from your moon sign, then you're going to be stuck in this place of just never being able to have enough. So the soft power that is represented by our moon shows us what our inner needs are, these non-negotiable needs that help you make decisions that drive your business based on your own inner authority, your own soft power. It gives you the emotional security now by understanding again how you need to feel, what success feels like for you. This emotional security is only found deep within you. Nobody can give you emotional security except for yourself. And then of course, this gives you your reason, your why, your MO, the reason that you do things. And we're going to be shifting away from doing things unconsciously based on lack and fear into this place of awareness and consciousness that even though something might be a little bit scary and a little bit risky, you know that you are meant to take that leap because you understand your moon sign. So take a listen to last year's replay where I share with you 5 ways to use your moon sign in your brand and business. As we go through the 5 ways to use your moon sign in your brand, you're going to find real examples of what happens when you don't acknowledge your moon sign, when you don't integrate all that it wants you to know. Our moon sign is probably the most karmic of all of our signs. We are born into this life with past hurts and things that we're supposed to learn and accomplish. And we can see this all from our moon sign. So let's go right into it. 5 ways to use your moon sign in your business. So the first way to use your moon sign in your business is to create emotional connection. Oh my goodness, I know we've been talking about emotions a lot. It is Cancer season. So that is really why I wanted to put this moon sign episode out during Cancer season, because we're already connecting with our emotional selves. In business, emotion is used as a driver, right? Of course, none of us here are using this in a manipulative way, but you've heard this many, many times, not just from me, that our emotions are what connects us to other people, connects us to other experiences. You've probably heard the phrase, people will not remember what you say, people remember how you make them feel. So, how are you making somebody else feel in your brand? And we can discover this through our moon sign. So our moon sign, yes, it's the emotional sense from our personal sense. We can look at our moon sign to understand how we need to feel to be emotionally secure. That's going to be different for each one of us. Each one of us has our own emotional needs and our own motivations. And if we're not clear on our own emotional needs, oftentimes we can be operating out of a place of fear versus a place of faith. Right? You may have heard me use this example before. When we look at the elements of astrology, we have our fire signs, we have our air signs, we have our water signs, and then we have our earth signs. And to me, these all come in kind of a linear order, right? Our fire signs are the inspiration. It's our connection to spirit, where we get these wonderful ideas that kind of flash in our mind. And then as the fire inspires us, then it goes into our head and we think about it and we mull it over and we think about it and we think about it some more. And for those of us who have a lot of air signs, sometimes all this thinking about it gets really stuck up there. I know for me, thinking about it, I can really get stuck when I think about it too much. But it's our heart, right? Our emotional sense, and that is represented by the moon, that then enables us to manifest, to actually take action and do, right? And so through our heart, our emotional sense, we then get to tell our body, take this action or take another action. And guess what? It's our emotions that allow us to hopefully make choices based on faith. As an entrepreneur, you are taking risks every day. And now, are you jumping off the cliff because you're being chased by a lion out of fear? Or are you jumping off the cliff because you know that as you jump, something is going to catch you and something bigger and better is waiting for you? And so, knowing this emotional center, what we need to feel secure in order to make those leaps of faith versus those leaps of fear really helps us manifest. And then also with the emotional connection, that same other side of the coin, right? If we know that our moon sign is this place of how we need to feel and how we need to heal, it goes the other way too, because our moon sign is going to attract. Our moon serves as this kind of beacon that the emotions that we give off when it's aligned with our moon sign attracts the people that we are meant to serve. So you can see how our moon sign helps us with our customer connection. Now, I know we can't always be strong and have this outer shell like we are invincible. I hope that none of us feel that we need to be that way. And so our moon sign helps us gain that emotional connection of where we need for ourselves extra loving care, right? Being strong isn't just about feeling invincible, but it's actually really knowing what we need to feel emotionally secure, right? So there's this idea of vulnerability. Some people see vulnerability as weaknesses. I do not. I see vulnerability as strength. When we can really say what we need to feel secure, then we can then go out and tell people what we need. And that gives us strength. Being able to speak for what we desire, to be able to express how we're feeling, yes, that is very, very vulnerable. And only the strongest people can be vulnerable. The next way we use our moon sign in our brands is by developing our intuition. You know, I've talked to so many people about kind of their intuitive abilities, and people come in two camps. They're like, yes, I totally have it. And there are people like, no, that's not me. But let me tell you, we all have intuition, regardless of what you call it. Maybe you call it your gut or your spidey sense, or maybe you have developed your intuition so well that you can see the aura and the sparkles of people, or you can access past lives for your customers or for yourselves. Wherever you are in the spectrum of having access to your intuition, let me just tell you, we all have it, and it takes practice. Now, for those of you who are like, no, I don't have any intuition, or my intuition is not that strong, it only hits me at a certain times. We've been systematically educated to not trust our intuition, right? For most of us, our intuition has been removed from us. It's been taught to us that we shouldn't trust our gut, shouldn't trust our spidey sense. But I know we are coming into this new phase and this new way of being where we are now getting more in touch with our intuition. And you can hear business gurus of all shapes and sizes saying, trust your gut, trust your gut. Your gut never leads you astray. Yes, that is very true. So when you understand your moon sign, right, you understand the element of it, whether it's fire or air or earth or water, that's going to give you some insight as how you receive the information from your intuition. My intuition is a fire. I have a Sagittarius moon. I get these hits, these downloads, right? But I know I've had worked with people who have water signs, like there's a lot of you emotional, beautiful Cancer moon signs, right? Moon is in its home in Cancer. And for you, you get these feelings, just like these feelings that kind of warm your entire body, right? I know some of you intuitives get these shocks, these electrical shocks through your nervous systems, right? That can be another fire moon, or that can be like a Uranus placement with your moon. When we look at our moon sign, it's going to give us lots and lots of insight as to how you're meant to receive the gifts of your intuition, right? So if you can understand your moon sign and use it to map where your spidey sense is coming from. Maybe it comes from your body. Maybe it comes from your emotions. Maybe it comes from your mind. There's so many different ways that your intuition is sending you signals all the time, and your moon has the key. What I'm trying to tell you is that your intuition, when you're trying to discern whether it's fear talking or your intuition will never have an emotional undertow. So the third way that you can use your moon sign in your brand is to face your fears. Oh my goodness, so many fears come up for business owners and for entrepreneurs. Actually, for all of us, we all have fears, right? And our moon sign being one of our karmic energies in our charts, the other karmic energies would, be like Saturn and Chiron. Some astrologers call them the malefics, the bad energies. Again, I hate astrology that judgments like that. Like, we need all of these energies in us. So these are kind of these karmic energies that bring in unfinished business from past lives, right? And the moon sign is one of those energies. And so the moon sign, when we look at understanding the shadows and fears that need to come to light based on our moon sign, this is going to give us so much better of a foundation in which we can then move forward. So we all have shadows and fears, and especially for entrepreneurs, the fears can sound like fear of failure, right? If you have a fear of failure, you might not take the risks. Or fear of success. I recently was talking to Janine in my Luminary Rising, and we're going to be working on our moon sign for the month of July. We started some pre-work, and one of the assignments was to read The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, and what she discovered was that she has a fear of success. Oh my, who else here has a fear of success, right? A lot of us have fears around money, right? Whether it's the lack of money or the abundance of money, there's all kinds of baggage around money, right? And then also belonging is another big fear, right? So belonging is like, will I be accepted? Will my ideas be accepted? Will people like me? Or also the other way, like, too many people like me. I don't want to be that popular, right? So when we look at our moon sign, we have a clearer picture of what those shadows and fears are. And it's so important to really understand what those shadows and fears are. Like in the very beginning, we were talking about emotions, right? And how emotions are the gateway as to whether or not we take inspired action or fearful action, or maybe just take no action at all. But when we face our fears and face our shadows, the idea is to not hide from the shadows, to avoid the shadows. No. You know that when you avoid shadows, and the older you get and the more you continue to avoid them, the more they pile up, right? So the idea is that we get really intimate with our shadows. We begin to love them, understand them, thank them, so that we can go through them and learn from them, versus trying to avoid the discomfort of feeling those shadows. And when we begin to face our shadows and bring them to light, we start to fill all of those holes, those missing pieces of ourselves. And as we fill these missing pieces of ourselves, the true healing begins to happen. And, we've been talking about this for a while, this kind of emotional work that we're doing in our business, because we have to take risks. We have to take calculated risks based on faith in our business so that we can grow, so we can show up for our communities. And we are doing the work right now. All right. The fourth way to use your moon sign in your brand is so that you can choose your destiny. Yes, if you don't choose your destiny, if you don't choose how you want to be seen, someone else is going to choose for you. And you know what happens when that happens. So our moon sign also shows us how we desire to be seen and recognized. Oh my goodness. I have worked with so many clients that when I have talked about their moon sign and say, hey, you truly want to be seen as X, Y, or Z. And they're like, oh my goodness, yes. I've always denied that part of myself because I didn't think that it was appropriate to want to be seen and recognized in that way. Hello, right? Can you imagine knowing how your moon sign wants to be recognized and then being validated so that you could really truly live in that? How empowering would that be? Oh my gosh, I'm specifically talking to all of you Aries moon sign people. I have talked to so many of you, and you know who I'm talking about, right? You know, if you have an Aries moon sign, you want to be seen as the trailblazer. You want to be first. You want to be that wild-hearted, passionate, like anything goes kind of person. So what is preventing you from that? So when you know exactly how you want to be seen and how you want to be recognized and how you need to feel, oh my gosh, how secure would you be knowing all of that, feeling all of that, being all of that, right? The other thing about the moon sign is that you get to choose to see all of your challenges and all of the hurts that you've learned to work through as gifts. These challenges and your past hurts, they become these amazing, valuable tools, valuable gifts, valuable adds to your offering because you are fully equipped to serve others who are going or have gone or will go through those same issues that you have overcome. You get to choose to see these challenges as gifts. You get to choose how you desire to be seen. You get to choose your destiny, right? You are an entrepreneur because you wanted to create a business to fulfill a certain part of your life. And your moon sign can show you exactly all of that if you don't already know. All right. So now we are up to the fifth way you can use your moon sign in your brand. And this is creating your why. So if you've done the emotional work and created that emotional connection, if you've done the work to really get in touch and fine tune your intuition, if you've done the work to face your fears, if you've done the work to choose your destiny, all of these packaged up inform your why. Now, there have been people who've written entire books on your why and why your why is important in your business and your brand. But know that your why allows you to understand your clear intentions and motivations. Your why puts everything you do and gives everything you do the meaning in your life. When you look to your moon sign to understand your why, you're going to be able to package this all up, write it all out, and go out and share your story, all with this underlying meaning. It's going to create that emotional connection that we talked about earlier that you know attracts your ideal customers. Your why allows you to share your vulnerabilities with power, with intentions. And your why connects you with others through your story. why you are the exact person or business that they are meant to work with. If you'd like a free worksheet on how to work with your moon sign in your business and brand, head over to thesavvyluminary.com/moon to get a link to a Google document. You can make a copy of that Google document and play with it by uncovering all of the energies of your natal moon sign and then understanding the drives and the emotions that you need to feel successful in your business. Again, you can grab that free Google worksheet by heading over to thesavvyluminary.com/moon. So earlier today, I asked my free Facebook group, The Savvy Luminary, if anybody had questions about their business and their moon sign. And oh my goodness, there are so many questions. So I'm going to do my best to answer as many as possible during this short little segment. So Gail asks, how can my moon sign help me to bring more femininity, gentleness to my business? My moon is in Taurus. Thank you. Well, our moon sign already is about kindness and gentleness and femininity because the moon sign is ruled by Cancer. And so, but maybe, so your moon is in Taurus and Taurus is also an earth sign. So that is generally what would be considered traditionally feminine. It is receptive. It is creative. And so this sense of Taurus about like what drives you, what does success feel like for you? Well, with your moon sign in Taurus, success feels like stability for you. Success feels like peace. Success feels like luxuriating. So if you're looking to about the why in your business and how can it help you bring in more compassion and kindness and gentleness towards yourself, understanding that your need for stability and peace and comfort drives you. Like that's what success means like for you. When you're feeling stable and when you're feeling peaceful is when you're able to show up with more kindness. So I hope that serves, Gail. So Claire asks, my moon is conjunct Saturn and my south node in Scorpio. How can I work hard in my south node? I have an almost constant feeling of needing to work on things involving my emotions, which I really enjoy. Such a great question. So I mentioned earlier that our moon is one of our karmic energies, meaning our soul's history. The South Node is also one of our karmic energies, as well as a little bit of Saturn. So the moon, again, is bringing up like ancestral and intergenerational stories that we need to work on. And our South Node is bringing up all of the past patterns from our past lives. And so with the North Node and the South Node, with the South Node, we hear about like getting stuck in past patterns. But the South Node is also this place in our business that we can always like fall back on and rely on. And so any energies, your Saturn as well as your moon in Scorpio, that means that your lifetime, in this lifetime, your South Node brought in all of your soul history from working hard, Saturn, learning your mastery, Saturn, as well as your deep emotional wealth and wisdom. So in reality, your Saturn and your moon about emotional the sense of like emotional mastery is so clear for you in your business. And so we can look at our moon sign because it's something that we need, it's something that drives and motivates us in our business. But for you, instead of always working hard on transformation and working hard on deep emotional healing, don't get stuck there. Know that you can use that energy and fall back on it, and that's part of your genius and what you do so well. But move into that Taurus energy, move into feeling abundant and working on your physical prosperity instead of just on your emotional alchemical mastery. And so that would be how I would suggest for you, is like really stretching into earning more money, getting more prosperous, and release yourself from getting stuck in this past pattern of always having to work hard and always having to do the emotional lifting. So Michelle asks, what's the effect when your moon is in different houses and how does that benefit or affect your business? For example, my moon is in the first house. What's the specific value for you, for me, from that? Beautiful. So when we're looking at our moon sign, yes, we are looking at the zodiac sign. We are looking at the elemental sign. We are or elemental energy. We're looking at whether it's the modality, whether it's cardinal or fixed. And all of that. But where it is by house in your chart is showing you where you have that depth of emotional knowing, where in your business you are meant to be emotionally secure, where in your business that is really saying, hey, this is where I need to feel emotionally secure and successful in my business. So by house, of course, with your first house, Michelle, you know that your first house is about your leadership role. It's about your identity. It's about how you contribute what you are meant to do. So Michelle, I know your chart and you have a Gemini rising and your moon is in your first house. And so for you, being an emotional, vulnerable, emotional, secure, intuitive leader is so crucial for you. Like that's what success means for you when you can speak your emotions, when you can lead with your intuition. And so to me, that's huge. I know a lot of us in the Savvy Luminary have their moon in pretty prominent areas, like on one of their angles, meaning like your rising sign or your descendant or your midheaven or your IC, though that kind of those axes, those cardinal axes in our charts are our angles. And so if you have your moon on one of your angles, your emotional self is really, really important. So for Michelle, again, with your moon near in your first house, in your rising, for you on an emotional security level, you need to be seen as the leader and as well as you lead with your emotions. For those of you that might have it in the seventh house, security might be in partnership, or you're meant to have emotionally intelligent collaborators. So I hope that serves, Michelle. Vilda asks, as an Aries moon and Aries sun, building something real is really hard. How do I work with this fiery moon and not get burnt out in 3 days doing too much? So, Vilda, I feel like there's something else that's going on for you that is that this sense of worthiness that you have to work so hard. Because for an Aries moon, and I know there's a ton of Aries moon people in the Savvy Luminary and listeners, for the Aries moon, success feels like being the best. And so if you are motivated on working on how can you be your unique best, what is your unique competitiveness and challenge, that is what is really making your Aries moon really drive. Now, this idea of getting burnt out, remember, we still all need to rest. And my question for you is, what is this compulsion to work really hard? What is this story that you are telling yourself, this belief that you have that if you have that if you don't that you need to continue to work, that you're not allowing yourself to rest? With an Aries moon, maybe it's like this drive, this fear, this need to protect itself or fight is what is causing you to work so hard. So there's a bunch of other questions that I have for you, but I have a feeling that that serves. All right. So the last question that I'll have time to answer right now is from Priya. My moon is in Capricorn. I'd love to know how to best work with my business to attract the perfect clients and readers. So our moon sign isn't necessarily our biggest key in attracting clients. Our moon sign is for us to use to understand what motivates us. What does success feel like for us so that we can motivate based on, for you, your Capricornian needs. So for your moon in Capricorn, you have this sense of like self-mastery. You want to be seen as the expert. You want to be recognized in your own authority. You want to feel like you have your own self responsibility. And it is from knowing ourselves so well based on our emotional security. For you, your emotional security is the energy of Capricorn. Again, achieving your goals, strategizing, being seen as the expert. That gives you the emotional security, that confidence that adds, of course, from your sun's superpower that then your ideal customers sense. Your ideal customer, the archetype of your ideal customer is now on your seventh house cusp. So right across your rising sign, that's the ideal customers that you're meant to work with. But if you're not feeling secure in yourself, secure in your Capricorn moon, then partners, clients, friends, romantic partners, they're going to sense that there's something a little bit off. So making sure that you're using your Capricorn energy, your Capricorn moon to feel emotionally secure. It is okay for you to be the expert, the authority. It's more than okay. It's a need, a necessity for you. And with your Capricorn moon, be sure that you're not falling into the trap of shoulds and using your sense of duty and responsibility to fulfill other people's dreams, but getting really clear on what your sense of own responsibility is. Follow your own dreams. All right. Well, those were as many questions as I could answer in today's episode. But if you have more questions, head over to my free Facebook group, The Savvy Luminary, and drop your question in there. All right, everyone. Until next week, after our Business Star cast that drops on Sunday, next week's episode will be all about the Cancer archetype ruled by the moon. And so, how to use your soft power archetype to build belonging and safe spaces in your business. Till next time, take care. The greatest thing that you could do to me to pass things forward is to head over to Apple iTunes and leave a rating and review for this podcast. Let others know what you think, and each rating and review helps this podcast be more visible to listeners like you.